On Another Level Book Club presents OAL. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here with you.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharon. I appreciate you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Skip to an author or any author is to read the book and leave a review.
Hi, I'm Leandra Simone.
Good evening. Welcome to On Another Level Book Club, Author's Babble, where we're getting up close and personal with Dr. Edmund Moore, author of With a Father's Love. Dr. Moore, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Sharon.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Dr. Edmund Moore?
Well, was born and raised in Georgia, from a town called LaGrange, and so parents were educators, teachers, principals, coaches, and went to school at Florida A&M University, where I got degrees in mathematics and physics, and then I matriculated to MIT, where I got a master's degree in engineering, and left there and went to the University of Florida in Gainesville and got a PhD in material science engineering. And along the way, while I was working on that, I was employed by the Air Force, and that's how I ended up in at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, out of around the quaint city of Dayton, Ohio, home of the funk.
Very diverse background. So tell us, how did you end up becoming an author?
Well, in my career, I've always been a writer. So when I was young, I used to write poems and short stories. As an engineer, I was always the best writer, so I would get to edit other people's reports.
Okay.
Even when I worked as a manufacturing engineer in Roxbury, Massachusetts. So and we have this program in Dayton called the Parity Inc. Top 10 African American Men. So I've been writing up the bios on our honorees for probably over 10 years now.
Okay.
So I'm always writing.
Okay. Very impressive. And then, of course, being a son of educators, I'm sure you know how to cross every T and dot every I, huh?
That's right.
So let's talk about this book, With the Father's Love. Where did it derive from? And tell us a little bit about the book without giving too much away.
Well, about now it feels like about 7 years ago, my wife filed for divorce, and I was worried about losing custody of my two daughters, and so I wanted my daughters to know who I was. So I started writing them a letter once a week on a various subject, and I did it for 52 weeks. And what I promised to them was I would write a book, a hybrid publisher, and wrote a book for them. And I had 3 copies printed on Amazon, and I stuck it on the bookshelf, and I gave them their copy of their own book of the letters.
Interesting. So what was the focus of the letters? I mean, were they about current situations you were experiencing, your feelings? What was the message or the theme of the letters?
First letter was, I think it was titled, I Will Always Love You. So in that letter, I just pointed out how I would always love my daughters no matter what they did and that kind of thing, would be there to support them. And I laid out the format for the rest of the letters. What I decided to do was an introduction, then write a letter on a various topic, a reflection, and then something about me. And that was the couple that point. So they would say, who is your father? And they would say, oh, my dad did such and such and such and such. I know what school he graduated from. I know where he was born. Those kind of things.
So, what was your daughter's response to the letters? I mean, did they write you back? Did you guys have discussions weekly regarding the letters?
Well, at the time they were, I think, 12 and 8 years old.
Okay. Okay.
So of course there were various topics I didn't discuss, like boys at that age, um, which is a question you probably would have asked. But my youngest daughter, she's a writer, and she read them and she asked questions, and even when I stopped writing, she said, "I wish you'd write more."
Okay.
And my other daughter, she's not a writer, so she read them and that kind of thing. But they my daughter.
Okay, so I'm impressed on how you thought outside the box to maintain that connection and open communication with your daughters during such a difficult time. How important is it for fathers to remain consistent in their children's life when the relationship between the parents doesn't last?
It's very important for fathers to remain consistent in their children's life. They need to know that their father is there for them. They're supportive of them. It's a shoulder they can lean on. So I found it to be very important.
Interesting. So I would assume that this was an important and intimate exchange between you and your daughters. How did they feel? How did they respond with the letters being made public? And I think you said you kind of gave them a little heads up. How was their response? How have their response been to the book and the reviews of the books?
So to sort of give a little background. So at church, I shared, told some of the members of the church, my church, about the letters. And some people asked could they read some of them, and they did. And the response was, "Wow, you really should publish this." And they said because this can really help out young ladies who don't have fathers, stepchildren, that kind of thing. And they said that could be very helpful. And other people said, this could really help out fathers and encourage them to communicate with their children.
Right.
And then some of the feedback I got was, "Hey, I let my son read," and he said, "Where's the letter for the sons?" So it was. So people started asking basically for me to put the book out. And so what I told my daughters I would do is I would take out all of the all the personal information. I would make a version for the public and print it and get it published. And so that's how this book came about. But to get back, how did the daughters feel about it? I think early on, they didn't really think that much about it. Now,
teenagers, young adults.
I think they're like a little like, okay, Dad has got this book out. And people are asking about us. And one of the things I did was I tried to keep their photos and everything private on their behalf.
That's good. That's good. So you mentioned that some of the people in the church have told you that it would be a good thing for young men to have something like this. Do you have any sons?
Nope, just have 2 daughters.
Okay.
Even my godchildren are goddaughters.
Okay, wow.
Nice.
So as an African-American male, have you ever given any thought to maybe publishing something where you write letters to, quote unquote, a son? Like what would you talk with your son about, especially during everything that we're going through now in this society?
It's sort of digress a little bit. Remember, for this book, it was for young daughters, 12 and 8. Even if I had to write the letters today, I would cover more topics, which include Black Lives Matter, racism, interacting with police, dating, and those kind of things, sex, which I didn't cover just because of their age. And so with boys, I would cover the same areas as well, because they're both facing our young folks, whether they or males or females, they're both facing similar
That's true.
pushback from society. Even if you look at the number of folks in the criminal justice system, the spike is ripped out with the young ladies.
That's true.
So
after 52 weeks of writing a letter once a week, did you continue on with the letters or did it just stop? How did you communicate or keep the close contact with your daughters after the book was published and put out?
After the letters, the contact was primarily verbal with them.
Okay.
I didn't continue to write the letters. And what was interesting, for 52 weeks, you start wondering about it, you're running out of topics.
Well,
that's one of the things.
My thing is, and the next question is, are there any other books in the making? Because of the age that they were when you started and where they are now, I'm just planting the seed. I mean, I can see a lot of topics, a lot of letters that can be penned based on different situations that you've dealt with, that young women deal with, just FYI, putting that out there.
Yeah.
Putting it out there.
Well, another thing is I'm finding out adults like the book more than the children.
Right.
So that was a surprise.
Right. Well, if you really think about it, I mean, if you think about the Black community, a lot of us, even me, were raised without a father in the house. And a lot of times those issues are not addressed. And that may be a means for them coming to terms with, certain issues that was never addressed during their childhood. So
okay,
I can see that being So tell us about the process of getting the book published and the marketing of the book. What do you do to get that book out there? How did you go about in getting it published?
Well, remember I said I had a hybrid published the first time.
Okay.
And we got the book published, and then I got feedback from other authors who liked the book and they thought it was unique. They said people said they'd never seen one laid out quite like this. So I got a lot of encouragement and feedback, and so I went out and found another hybrid publisher, and have a cousin that's a publicist, and she recommended a couple of book designers. The person I worked with, I sent back, said, can we change it to this? And they said, no, I'm firing you. I'm sending your money back.
Okay.
So I ended up hiring another one and produced I think a beautiful book cover, and the publisher was Liftbridge Publishing.
Okay.
I think out of Virginia, which I hired, which is a hybrid publisher, and I had the book edited, and that was a learning process. So going through that, you think you can get things done faster than you really can get it done, but it took a little bit longer. But in talking to the owner of the company, if I write another book, it will be a lot more efficient. I know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So,
and we've heard from a lot of writers that after their first book, from the, stumbling blocks through that process, you learn how to go about it and do it more efficiently. So we have a lot of viewers who are aspiring writers and who has never gone through the process. Can you kind of explain to us what a hybrid publicist is? Or what
a hybrid
process is?
A hybrid publisher, they do not do everything necessarily for the book. So you can write your book and you can bring it in print ready, and they'll take it from there and publish it. Or you can seek their services for editors and proofreaders. So it gives you options.
Understand. So they don't do the whole shebang. It's like piece, whatever you're needing at the time. That's what they provide.
Right, and they can even help you with the marketing. They can suggest publicists, they can suggest other services you might need as well. Even though they may not be providing those services, they can suggest those to you.
Interesting. So tell us, what type of reviews have you received regarding the book, and how do you respond to the negative, if any, and positive criticism of the book, or positive feedback?
The only negative feedback I've had so far would have probably been in the book, because in the beginning of the book, I had people who did reviews.
Okay.
And one writer said, "Hey, the writing is a little stiff," but but that was it. That's been the only negative I've seen so far.
Mm-hmm. And you actually put that review in the book.
Oh well, it was honest review. The rest of them were positive, and but the person did say other good things about it. So I said, "Hey, that was an honest opinion. I don't need to strip it out."
So the burning question is, do you have your other project in the works?
Well, I'm thinking about a book towards that addresses young men.
I love it.
But I'm getting pushback on it.
What type of pushback are you getting?
The pushback is that it should consider young men and young women. Why are you singling out just young men?
True.
So that was interesting, but I can understand the pushback.
Okay. Bobby Brown said the best.
What was that?
It's your prerogative.
Okay, Bobby Brown.
So again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of people watching who are interested in writing. We actually have a lot of people that I've talked to personally who may have short stories, notes, and notepads, and they just haven't taken the time or the leap of faith to put it in a book format. Are there any words of encouragement that you can share with us and actually moving forward in this process?
I have a lot of friends who, close friends who say they want to write books. Mm-hmm. And my biggest piece of advice would be is go for it. Find you a publisher and publish.
Love it.
You got to start somewhere. If you don't, you can sit around all day and write and say you want to do something, but you got to go out and do it.
Right. The wish I woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
So tell our viewing audience, where can your book be purchased and where could you be reached?
Well, the book can be purchased on Amazon, by Kindle, and by Barnes & Noble. Okay. And I have a website that should be up and running next week, and it should be www.edmundmore. Should be the website next week. But also you can find me at Facebook by searching under Edmund Moore, or Instagram by searching on the author, Dr. Edmund H. Moore, or Twitter under author Dr. Edmund H. Moore.
Okay. So at this time, we're going to move over and we're going to play a little game. I'm going to ask you some questions. This is called the Unnamed Game. And while we take questions from the audience, we're going to get to know you a little bit better through these questions, okay?
All right.
All right. First question. Complete the statement. If I could live my life over again, I would.
If I could live my life over again, I would not have a tree fall on me on the golf course.
Okay, you got to tell us about this story. That's like being hit by lightning. How did a tree fall on you? What? Huh?
So last year, probably about this time of year, on the president of a golf league, the AFRL Golf League, and a windstorm came through, and after the storm went through, we went out to golf, and I hit my ball. I'm in the middle of the fairway, and my opponent hit his ball up on the tree, and I'm helping him find his ball on the tree, and all of a sudden, this big limb, probably about 6 inches in diameter, falls down and crashes on my shoulder.
Gosh.
If it had gone over 2 inches more, it would have broke my neck. And so all of a sudden, I'm on the ground, and I'm saying, "Don't touch me! Don't touch me! Don't try to move me, because I don't know what has happened." But while I'm on the ground, I see his ball. It's up under the other tree. And I said, "There go your ball."
Wait a minute.
But
So the limb only hit you looking for his ball.
yeah, the limb, landed on me, knocked me down to the ground. And I had a big contusion on my shoulder, and I was cut all down my left side all the way down to my knee.
That may have been a sign about their relationship, but okay, I'm just kidding. And there go your ball. You actually still looking for the ball. Okay. Next question.
All right.
What feelings do you have the most trouble expressing? What feelings do you have the most trouble expressing?
The feeling I had the most trouble expressing would be when someone gives me a compliment, accepting the compliment. That's hard to do.
I think most of us, it's hard. We're so hard on ourselves sometimes. We can't just let it, receive it and let it go.
Right.
Okay. Next question. Describe the perfect wife. And I picked these randomly, okay?
That don't sound like a random question to me.
I have no. Okay, go ahead.
Oh man, that's well, in a wife, what I look for is someone that believes in God,
Okay.
and that I love and they love me, and that we're comfortable with, and that we are each other's protectors.
Okay. I like that, each other protectors, because normally it's the other way around, you know. Okay. Next question. If you were lost in the woods and it got dark, what would you do?
I'm in the woods, it got dark, what would I do? That's the question?
Yeah.
Go out the woods.
The question said if you were lost in the woods.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I was lost, hopefully I would have flashlights and all that good stuff that I could signal to people, or noise makers, so I could make noise, and a working phone that had a map that can get me out of there.
Okay. And one last question. Which one of these? Who has helped you most in your life, and how have they helped you out?
I always tell people the person that helped me out most of my life was my brother. And because my brother was older, and I saw him make all the mistakes that I could avoid.
Okay.
So he was my biggest help.
That's sweet. Okay, I'm going to ask you one last one. If you had to move and could only take 3 things with you, what would you take? 3 things.
That's a tough one. 3 things I could take with me. The reason it's so tough is where am I going? What's going to be on the other side?
Open-ended.
Okay, a Bible, a lady friend, and plenty of cash.
Okay. 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 At this time, we're going to take questions from our viewing audience. We are having a little technical difficulties. The questions are not coming through. So Tony will be reading the questions. Okay. We will take our first question.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you.
All right. Our first question is from you with Alexander. She says, what was the most challenging hurdle you had crossed on the journey to becoming a published author? You mentioned many lessons learned.
the biggest challenge I had to becoming a published author was editors. Uh, a lot of people claim to be editors, and they take a lot of time. And I feel that as an engineer, I'm used to someone giving that bit to you, because even when you have an editor, when they send your work back to you, it's not going to be perfect. So I would prefer that they give it a good shot, then send it back so I can make the review and making the corrections quickly and turn it around. So to me, that was the biggest problem, biggest challenge.
All right. Okay. Next question. Do you have a copy of your book on hand? If so, could you read the very first sentence in the first chapter?
I do not have a copy of my book on hand, but I do have it electronically.
Kindle.
Let me see. So you said the first
sentence in the
sentence of
first
what?
chapter.
Okay.
And that's from you. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, Alexander.
Hold on, I got to get to it.
She's been modest. I was going to actually ask you to read one of your favorite letters from the book. Teaser.
Okay, so the first sentence from the first letter?
From the first sentence from the first chapter of the first letter, yes.
Okay, it'll be, dear daughters, for the next 52 weeks, I plan to write the two of you a one-page letter on a topic of interest to me, and I hope it will be interesting to you.
Okay.
All right. We have another question from Miss Wanda Courtney. She says, I have a saying, stop the world and get off, smell the roses. What are some of the things you do when preparing to journal or write your books or novels?
Wow. One of the things I do, I just read a lot. I read a variety of, I read newspapers, I read magazines, technical ones. I read one on business, finance, on consumer things, management, golf. I just read about inspirational books. Teach Sunday school, so I'm always reading the Bible and those type of things. So I just read a variety of topics of different materials, and then I synthesize the materials, and that's what give me the ideas to write about even various topics. I hope I answered the question, but if I didn't, you can give me a follow up.
So, okay. So I think you answered the question to some degree, but let me take the question a step further. What do you do just for fun, for enjoyment? Because her question stated, stop the world and get off and smell the roses. So what do you do to just enjoy life, to get off to stop the world?
I love that quote.
Well, one of the things I do golf. I'm president of a golf league, and I was out teaching a person today how to hit some balls so he can go out and play. So I golf. One of the things I just really picked up this in the past couple of weeks is I have all these trees and shrubs around the house. So I've started going out and pruning. I've gotten back into the yard doing yard work.
Me too.
My dad was grew up in Georgia. He was a brick mason, and he grew everything. So we had pomegranate trees in the yard. We had strawberries. We had plums. We had corn, squash, any vegetables, sweet potatoes, sugar cane, anything that you wanted in our yard.
Oh, wow.
He would grow it, including a banana plant. So that's been my latest giveaway. Just doing things in the yard,
right?
Convenient with nature.
All right, sounds good. So Wanda's asking another question. She says, "What or who motivates you?"
Who motivates me?
What or who?
That's a good question. At this stage, I don't know who really motivates my family, and I try to stay close to God. I'm trying to think, but this I don't know if there's a person that I can say that motivates me.
Okay.
All right, that's fair. We have another question for Yuva Alexander. What's your favorite genre to read? What makes you get lost in reading?
Hmm. I like I really love reading history. That's probably my favorite one to read because there's so much that we don't know about ourselves in the past, and especially with the I think the 1619 project, it's
Mhm.
just so much history that's coming out now, especially in the
Right.
last few years. And one of my when I was at the University of Florida in grad school and I was working on my doctorate degree, we had to take some electives, and I actually took a class from the author of the Cotton Club, the one that did the movie The Cotton Club. He was my African American history and literature professor. So he really piqued my interest in reading history even more.
Okay. All right. Audience, do we have any additional questions for Dr. Moore? If not, I'm going to turn it back over to Sharon.
Okay. Thank you for answering our questions and entertaining our audience. Do you have any last words of encouragement to anyone that's viewing who's contemplating or have the desire to go into writing or to become an author? Any words of encouragement?
I would say continue writing and don't hide your work on the bushel. Publish it. I'm talking about even if there are contests, enter a contest. If you can send things to magazines or to the newspapers, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Read your work to young people or other audiences, and by all means, a hybrid publisher or even self-publish. But make sure you get your work out into the public domain.
Okay. And lastly, man to man, if there's any African American men or men in general who are watching or listening who is absent in their son's or daughter's life, what words of encouragement could you give them in actually taking a step to be a better father and be active in their children's lives?
If you've been not active in your child's life as an African American man, I would say establish a relationship with your child. Take it slow. Rome wasn't built in one day. Let them know that you are there. Show up on time. Be a person of your word, and just build a relationship up. One of the things I encourage men to do is to communicate with your children. I said you can write them a letter. You can send them a chat by Twitter. You can carve it in stone. But whatever you do, make sure you just stay in communication with your children.
Okay. And Dr. Moore, tell our viewers one more time the best way to reach you and where they can purchase your book.
My book, the book with a father's love, 52 weekly letters to my beloved daughters by Dr. Edmund H. Moore, can be found on Kindle, Amazon, or Barnes and Noble. And you can also reach me on my Facebook page by searching under Edmund Moore, on my Instagram by searching under author Dr. Edmund H. Moore, or my Twitter by searching under author Dr. Edmund H. Moore.
Thank you for joining us tonight. It has been a pleasure, Dr. Moore.
Well, thank you for having me, Sharon, and for our host in the background, Tony. It's been enjoyable.
Thank you.
Right,
Join us next week, same place, same time, where we will be chatting it up with author Juba Treat Alexander, author of From the Pole to the Pulpit. That's going to be a good one. From the pole to the pulpit. And remember, reading gives us some place to go when we have to stay where we are. Stay safe and stay in place. Have a good evening.